President Trump coming out swinging during the State of the Union. Gloves were off last night. A fiery address to Congress. The president took direct aim at Democrats from the start all the way to the finish.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy. Amazing, incredible. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? Huh?
Accusing the Democrats of open borders, obstruction, reckless spending, and putting politics over the American people. The Republicans were on their feet. The Democrats, they were in their seat. Let's break it all down for you. Jim Paff with the Conservative Caucus with us this morning for a post-State of the Union analysis. Jim, that was the best State of the Union I have ever seen. I was also on my feet in my living room, could not get enough. I know it was the longest one in history, but it was definitely the best one in history. What's your reaction?
Yeah, well, there's this radio show I'm on a local station regularly, and I'm going to be on today. And the host was texting me and saying, 90 minutes in, and I'm not bored. Like, this is amazing. And it went a whole hour and 48 minutes. It was actually pretty darn good. I was really impressed by the fact that this is one of those very kind of rare State of the Unions in the TV age that you could stay with regularly, that had content that people wanted to hear about, even people that probably disliked Donald Trump. I mean, they wanted to hear it addressed. And then you look at a CNN poll that I saw come out this morning, 64, CNN of all places, 64% liked the speech, only 36% did not. Now, if there's staying power to some of the things in the speech, and I think some of the visuals will persist over weeks now, it's going to make Democrats look really foolish and stupid. And so anyway, I was very pleased. Donald Trump nailed it. He knocked it out of the park last night.
He absolutely did. And the host you were talking to is spot on, because usually during State of the Unions, former presidents, after about 20, 25 minutes in, you start listening, halfway listening, kind of zoning off and going around your house doing other things while the TV's still on. But he had every American glued to the TV the entire time. Let's start breaking it down. Let's start with illegal immigration. The most clutch moment, Jim, of the night is when he asked the room to stand if they put Americans over illegals. So stand if you put Americans over illegals. And the Democrats, they stayed seated. Watch.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislature to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
if looks could kill, I think Kelly would have dropped President Trump right there. But, you know, Jim, if you were a Democrat before last night, I didn't understand it, but especially this morning now, if you are still a Democrat, I'll never understand it, because he backed them into a corner on the national stage and said, if you want to put Americans over illegals, stand up, and they stayed seated. That right there shows all of America. I don't care which side of the aisle that you're on, that America comes last to the Democrats.
Well, they're not an American party. I mean, you've heard me say this many times. They are an un-American party. They're trying to overthrow the American Republic. And this is one of those indicators of how bad that is. Listen, I understand. I've seen State of the Union speeches since Ronald Reagan, and actually before that. And so there's no doubt that the opposing party doesn't like everything that the presidential party in power is going to say. So you're going to have disagreements or whatever. This was such an easy laydown on an issue that Americans overwhelmingly support. And Democrats should know that. I guarantee you their internal polls show it. The external polls are there as well, too. This is one of those visuals that Donald Trump was successfully able to get that should be played over and over again so people remember that they do not stand for that principle. I mean, even if they wanted to sit down for the rest of the speech, to stand for the principle as explicitly stated by Donald Trump was an easy support item. Then they can come back and say, but we don't like how Donald Trump's doing it. Okay, fine. That's how politics typically works. When you have a party that is intent upon destroying the American Republic, that's the response that they're going to get. It's consistent with them. And Mark Kelly, by the way, you mentioned him. He made an insane statement afterwards. He said it was rambling, and you know, he had all these negative things to say about it. It wasn't even good. A good response for someone who opposes him politically. And these people are truly insane in their way at looking at things. And Donald Trump said, you're crazy. They are crazy.
They are crazy. And that wasn't the only time they stayed seated. I have an entire list, Jill, in my hand right now of all of the times they stayed seated. I'll read a few off. Reaffirming the first duty, as we just saw, of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegals. They stayed seated. They stayed seated for the grieving families of innocent American women and children murdered by criminal illegal aliens. They stayed seated when we talked about securing our homeland and finally ending the invasion of criminal aliens. Unifying against political violence. They stayed in their seats. Prioritizing American citizens over illegals, stayed in their seats. Economy, gas prices coming down, stayed sitting. Law enforcement officers being respected once again after years of being just unjust and getting no help from the Democrats, stayed seated. Protecting the integrity of our elections, stayed seated. Banning large corporations from scooping up single-family homes, ensuring they remain available for working families. You know, the American dream. People work hard. They want to own a home for their families. They did not stand up and applaud that. The single largest drop in the murder rate in 125 years in large cities, they didn't stand up. Why would they be okay with murder rates skyrocketing? They stayed seated. They stayed seated for the American heroes, a World War II veteran who was there, did not stand up for so many accomplishments, so many American loving policies. They stayed in their seats, and that tells the story. And then Ilhan Omar, she gets in a screaming match, the president having to talk over her during the speech when he was talking about, you know, the crime and corruption and illegals in our country. She doesn't like that at all. And by the way, Jim, 73 Democrats skipped out on the State of the Union last night. They were no-shows.
Listen, people think it's egregious when I say they're an un-American party. You just gave the list. That proves the point. I don't like to be egregious in my statements and just say stuff to get people riled up only. I mean, listen, we're all making analyses. We come from a political opinion. We say things. This is an objectively true statement that the Democrat Party seeks to overthrow the American Republic. They do not like what we stand for. They do not like our Constitution and the things that held us together and made us a great nation over the last 250 years. And they definitely do not like people from the Judeo-Christian perspective, particularly Christians and Jews, who they hate, who they want to disgustingly throw off into the corner, who they want to censor and destroy. They have a secularist, pagan view of what the United States stands for. By the way, I'm going to give John Fetterman credit. He stood up for certain things that Donald Trump said, and so not everybody is messed up there. He may be the only one that's not. Ilhan Omar, though, is very interesting. She is now worth $30 million. She was worth nothing before she went to Congress. She is a prime example of people who have exploited this system for their own financial gain. Some of it may be even related to the Somali fraud. I don't know this for a fact, but it may be related to the Somali fraud. Whether it is or not, she is someone who's bilking the system, taking advantage of all of us Americans for her personal advantage. That is not what a representative form of government and representatives who represent us in that government should be doing. She's an extreme example, but a clear example of the heart and spirit, the evil heart and spirit of Democrats in this day and age.
Yeah, you're right. And you mentioned John Fetterman. He was there last night, stood up several times. He also shook the president's hand as he walked in. So that was nice to see. Staying on illegal immigration before we move on, because there was so much to talk about from last night. Historic reductions in illegal immigration, illegal border crossings, Jim, have plummeted to their lowest level since the 1970s. The U.S. has achieved negative net migration last year alone, the first time in over 50 years. And in the last year, there have been over 675,000 deportations. Over 400,000 of those were charged or convicted of crimes. What does this tell you? America is safer. Murder rates have gone down in our biggest cities, again, to the lowest level in 125 years. We talked about that a minute ago. This is something to celebrate. And when you look at the 2024 election, and, I was on the campaign trail traveling the country with the president. This is what America wanted first over the economy. They wanted closed borders, and President Trump has done that, and he touted that success last night.
Well, he did, and what is happening at the border and what's happening with our immigration situation is entirely due to Donald Trump's efforts and his wise decision to put Tom Homan in charge of the Broussard position, where he has performed flawlessly. There have been a few mistakes, I'm sure, here and there, and we've got human errors always. But none of them have been serious enough to truly cause concern. They only cause concern to Democrats because, again, in their effort to overthrow the American Republic, the replacement theory that I know Tucker Carlson got a lot of heat for when he was on Fox News is absolutely true. We've all been talking about it, and now we know it's a fact. Now we got to go secure our elections, another thing I know we'll talk about from last night. But what we have done at the border has literally put our country back into a position where we can recover from the harms done with this mass unobstructed migration that the Biden administration attempted to foist upon the American people to destroy us. I mean, do not talk to me about all. There are negatives in Donald Trump's presidency. I have a few disagreements. There are things I'd like to see done differently or better. But there is absolutely no doubt you cannot make the case that Donald Trump's administration is not a pro-America administration that seeks to gain benefits for all the American people, those who support him or do not. That is something we've been lacking this century in both Republican and Democrat administrations. And now we're getting it back because Donald Trump has got the focus where it ought to be. And last night, in totality, highlighted how he has been successfully able to do that. And it continues to show the plan for what will be good for the next 3 years to come.
Yeah, and the economy as well. He is restoring affordability. He talked about that last night. He went down the list, Jim. Everyday costs are finally falling. He touted the big, beautiful bill. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our senior citizens. Again, Democrats stayed seated. He talked about, just our everyday living expenses, how beef, eggs, coffee, all those prices are declining. Prescription drug prices becoming more affordable. Mortgage rates have dropped, the lowest since 2022. Apartment rents are going down. The list goes on. And he gave an example of that to all of the Americans to remind them that they are saving money and more money is being put back into their pockets under his administration.
The American people are benefiting. The polls at the moment don't seem to indicate that the American people feel great about things. And on balance, it's polls that I respect, like the Rasmussen Report's polls I totally disrespect, like the ABC Washington Post poll and others, CNN polls, even the Fox News poll that sucks. Listen, it hasn't entirely seeped in yet, but the reality is that Americans are making more money than they have in a long period of time. They're having less of their money taken away from them after the big, beautiful bill in some key areas. Like it's not a lot of money when you talk about no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, but it's all the people who need help the most. They're getting that help, and it's helping other Americans too. Jobs are increasing. This is one of those situations from the economic perspective that may end up turning out like the Morning in America thing in 1984, when truly Ronald Reagan was in the tank in his polls at the beginning of that year. There was no way he was going to win. And Mondale was just really steaming away. But as the American people were able to take complete and full and extended advantage of the economic benefits that were coming their way, they overwhelmingly voted him into office in 1984. Now, I can't predict that it's going to be precisely the same for Republicans. Quite frankly, I think Republicans in Congress are doing everything they can to screw the pooch on this. Donald Trump's not, though. He has set Republicans in Congress up for something wonderful if they will just do the right things, pass the SAVE Act, do more cutting in the reconciliation bill to come, implement Donald Trump's executive orders into law during this next reconciliation bill, all of which they can do, all of which will benefit Americans tremendously and save our republic. If they're willing to do that, the American people will clearly support them, especially on an 80 to 90% issue like voter ID. I mean, that's like a laydown. Do the standing filibuster, go through the delay that's going to cause, let the American people, once again, just like last night, see where Democrats really stand and how much they hate the American people, because the American people won't give them permanent power. And I think that Americans will reward Republicans at the polls if they do the right thing.
Yeah, you're right. I hope they do. And you mentioned the SAVE Act. Let's talk about that for a second. It's just sitting in the Senate collecting dust. President Trump actually called out John Thune last night when he was talking about the SAVE Act. Let's take a listen.
Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated, and Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things you almost say, what imagination.
Yeah, and later on he said, do the right thing, John, talking to John Thune, but he's absolutely right. Why would you not? We talk about it every day here on the show. The SAVE Act. I mean, I feel like a broken record every day, Jim, talking about getting this legislation passed. And then you have the president standing in front of Congress last night saying, get it done first before anything else is done.
In my opinion, this is the most important piece of legislation, not just for this Congress, but for this generation. It must be done. The Democrats, with the help, with the leadership of radical evil lawyers like Mark Elias, have been working hard through the courts to transform our elections this entire century. They got really upset after Al Gore lost in 2000, and they decided they were going to attempt to rig the system. When you have unsolicited mail ballots, which bring in massive custody issues that are harmful, and you combine that with voter rolls, particularly in Democrat states, but really even in some Republican states that have never been cleaned, and then you add on top of that the vote gathering methods that have the pre-election vote gathering methods that states have provided for. It's not just California, which has this on an unlimited basis with no restrictions at all, where you can intimidate voters or lead voters along. I mean, these are all basic principles that have kept our elections mostly accurate for most of American history. And there have been instances here and there. But prior to this century, you had to show up on election day to vote. You had to prove you were eligible to vote. We had very limited mail ballots, only for situations where it was rational and reasonable for people to have them. An invalid who couldn't get out to the polls, military people who were overseas, people who had necessary travel, and you had affidavits with criminal penalties assigned to it. We've got to get back to that. The SAVE Act takes us a long way towards that, where people have to absolutely prove that they are an American citizen eligible to vote, amongst other things. We've got to change this. This is a seminal thing for the protection of the United States. If we cannot get this done, there's a very high likelihood that we're going to lose America forever, and we're going to go back to something far worse than what happened in the Biden administration if some future Democrat becomes president, if we cannot get this one thing done.
You're absolutely right, because it is scary to think about. I think about it daily. If we cannot secure our elections, our country is lost. I want our viewers to stick around, because we're going to talk more with Kara Castronova and Allison Steinberg later in the show about securing our elections there in Washington, D.C. But again, for last night, another key point, Jim, that I loved was when he called out Nancy Pelosi when he was discussing insider trading in Congress. Let's take a listen to that.
I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay.
Yep. So calling out Nancy Pelosi, she probably had to duck down in her chair when he said her name, Jim. So another zinger from President Trump last night.
Yeah, and well deserved, to be candid. Nancy Pelosi is the poster child for how bad this has been. I served on Capitol Hill, as you know, for about 8 years with 2 different members of Congress as their chief of staff. You saw this stuff happening then in a serious way. Peter Schweitzer wrote a great book, Throw Them All Out, that exposed a lot of these problems and how they were working. It led to the passage of the Stock Act. If the Stock Act hadn't passed, we wouldn't know enough about this problem. We know much more about it, and even though that was a weak bill, to be candid, but the transparency aspect of it has allowed people to see more clearly what's going on. We wouldn't know that Ilhan Omar, by the way, is worth $30 million more now than she was prior to her time coming into office. That we wouldn't know that if it hadn't been for the Stock Act. But it doesn't go far enough, because, as we know, this insider trading effort is still happening. Tim Burchett made a great statement last night in his support of this act. He was walking away from the Capitol, as he usually does for his videos after something major, and he did talk about the fact members of Congress are in meetings that are private, They have access to lobbyists who, by the way, want to encourage them to vote certain ways, and and their corporate lobbyists might have access to companies and let them know, hey, this is going on. You may want to take advantage of it. I mean, those kinds of things have been going on under the table for decades now, for a long period of time. And being a member of Congress was never supposed to be something anyone financially benefited from. And quite frankly, it should be more of the type of thing that you take the kind of financial hit that guys like Donald Trump take to be president. I mean, he's literally taken a hit of billions of dollars. And yes, his family's had investments recently and they've done a little better on some things. But it's not because they have some supreme advantage here. They're still hit hard. These members of Congress, it should be risky to go to Congress because you need to go back and do your dang business and take care of your family. But these people stay forever and they enrich themselves at our expense, not directly related to how they're enriching themselves, but how they're giving corporations and major industries special favors and then adding regulation on top of it that restrains all of us but gives them a base of power. This has been happening for far too long. And passing this act will not entirely change all of that, but it takes away one of the big incentives for people to get on Capitol Hill. Many members of which don't know until they get there, by the way, in fairness. But then once they get there, they become part of the system because they start to figure all this out. And I've seen this from the inside. It's a very real thing. The swamp does engulf these people over time unless they've made a determination in their own minds before they get there that they're never going to allow this to happen. And it takes a lot of effort and regular mental effort not to be tempted by it.
Right. A lot of these people running for the wrong reasons. But you mentioned Ilhan Omar. According to her, her millions came from a very successful winery in California. But we all know the situation there. That's another topic for another time. As we start to wrap up, Jim, it was a tear-jerking night as well. Stories that just touched everyone's hearts. President Trump honored American heroes, survivors of crime last night. And then to sports, the men's U.S. hockey team, they had a day yesterday. They were at the White House, visited the Oval Office prior to the State of the Union. We're looking at video of them there with their gold medals around their necks. And then they were invited in to the State of the Union last night where President Trump acknowledged them. So there was a lot of sad stories, happy stories, just a very all in all, wonderful night for the American people. President Trump making it clear he loves this country. He loves the people who love this country and fight for our country. And he's going to continue to fight for us for the next 3 years that he's in office.
Listen, there were some fantastic moments. No doubt about it. All of America is going to remember this scene of the U.S. hockey team, who had an amazing victory over a very talented and now complaining Canadian team. But they had a great win, and we should all be proud of them for what they did. They accomplished something great. People are going to remember that. But when you consider the fact that the two medals of honor that were given out last night to men who sacrificed dearly on behalf of the security and safety of our country, neither of whom are sitting back and saying, yeah, we're working really hard to get that Congressional Medal of Honor. No, I turned to my wife and I said, the amazing thing about that, and particularly the gentleman who we're seeing on the video right now, it's hard for them to receive it, because they saw the tragedy that was around them, the horror that they had to endure. And they don't think that they sit back and had anything special to bring to this. It is a really humble sacrifice for almost any Medal of Honor winner in American history to have done what they've accomplished. In fact, this is often given posthumously. So there's that aspect of it as well, too. And they know this. So these were great visuals. Donald Trump, these things are political theater in a sense, but at the same time, that political theater is kind of necessary in a republic so that we can understand what actually has happened. And some presidents do it well, some don't do it so well. I think Donald Trump does it very well on the balance of we want to highlight what we stand for, but at the same time to bring up those highlights in a manner that really makes the American people have something that they can grab onto. Mark Kelly, in his speech that he put on his that he posted up after the State of the Union, tried to make this out to be some megalomania session that divided us worse. No, this entire speech, even if you didn't like Donald Trump, all the touch points were about bringing us together, not separating us. It's Democrats that are trying to separate out what America is and to subsume the American people under their authority by rigging elections, by rigging the process in their benefit, so that it's hard for the American people to make the changes that they feel like that they need to make. And that's why the SAVE Act is so important. That's why the Insider Trading Act is really important. And it's why we need to continue through the Doge efforts and other things Donald Trump's doing to knock out the spread and influence of the federal government. And he's doing that. He's doing it well. And I think history is going to treat him properly for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, again, this is a very vital year, an election coming up, and I think President Trump reignited the flame for the Republicans. Early voting is going on in multiple states right now. If you do not feel energized after last night's speech, I don't know what to tell you, but he brought the momentum, and I hope that momentum gets everyone to the polls and out to vote. Again, we need another election, Jim, where it's too big to rig here in November. But, if they pass that SAVE Act, they'd make it very hard for them to rig. So we're going to be watching that closely. Jim Pav, always good to see you. Thanks so much for your analysis this morning and everything you do with the Conservative Caucus.
Thanks, Vanessa. Great to be with you as always.
President Trump mentioning the Somali fraud last night at the State of the Union, and there to witness it, that moment, was independent journalist who uncovered it all, Nick Shirley. Nick and his team were at the pre-State of the Union roundtable hosted by the Republican Study Committee. We brought that to you live yesterday here on the show. Here's what they said during that roundtable.
What happened with this fraud framework is they brought the Somalis in because they had a guaranteed voting block for all eternity, and they all vote Democrat. And they'll say they have 9 people living in an apartment, and guess what? The state sends them 9 ballots. Or they have 10, and there's no verification. This is like the Wild West, and it's destroying Minnesota. It's destroying country, and we're at a crossroads right now where this is the civil war that we're fighting, and it's good versus evil. And I've just said you've got to decide which side you're on, because you can't straddle the fence on this. You're either on the side of good or you're on the side of evil. And this committee is good. And so if you want these numbers, I'll send them to you. I just need your email. You're going to be shocked at what you read in this spreadsheet, the number of violations. And again, when Nick and I got together and we went to those child care facilities, I called Nick and I said, you're not going to believe it. You're not going to see a single child at any of these child care facilities. And when you saw the video, how many children did you see? 0. And they're getting $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $3.6 million a year, and they have no children. And then they said they serve 346,000 meals. So if you haven't noticed it in your state, trust me, it's coming. You've got to get on the front end of this. And so I would urge that you ask your citizens in your state to get involved. And if something doesn't look right, don't go confront the people, because you saw how dangerous it was when Nick and I did that. We had security with us. But they've got to be observant, and they've got to keep track of it, and they've got to be focused on what they're doing.
And as we talked about earlier, Ilhan Omar just sat in her seat at the State of the Union and shook her head. During the Minnesota mention last night, she didn't have a good night. And back to securing our elections now. I want to talk about that. The SAVE Act, as we mentioned, was a topic of discussion during the address. We knew it would be. Our Allison Steinberg continues our coverage this morning with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton at the Capitol.
Hello, everyone. Allison Steinberg here with LINDELLTV. We are here with the one and only Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is running for Senate. Tell us about your run. How are things going?
It's going really well. I started April the 8th. I've been traveling the state for almost 11 months. And I've been asking the question. We have a senator that's been there since I was in college. He's been in office since I was in college, and I'm 63. It's time for change. He's not accomplished anything. I've asked every single meeting I've been in, can you name one great accomplishment in the entire 40-plus years of John Cornyn? And the answer has been a quiet crickets. No one's ever answered that question. And all we have is examples of him betraying Texas, siding with Joe Biden on Second Amendment gun restrictions, siding with him, bringing Afghan refugees here without any vetting, and then going against our president on the border wall, on budget issues. And now, of course, when President Trump was running for re-election, he said that President Trump's time has come. The reality is John Cornyn's time has come.
I think so, and I think that's actually true for many sitting members of the Senate. They just get in. They say they're only going to be in for a couple of terms, right? Like Susan Collins is another example. And then they end up here for the rest of their lives. Mitch McConnell is another one that comes to mind. I mean, why is that? What is the problem here? And can we fix this ongoing issue of these endless term limits?
It's simple. It's called finance. The way that John McCain and Russ Feingold set up the finance system, I'm limited to $3,500 a person for the primary. So my opponent is going to spend $70 to $80 million. How do you do that when you're limited to $3,500? They can outspend you because their rules are different than challengers. What John McCain said he was going to do, he claimed to do, was, I'm getting money out of politics. Well, he did get money out of politics, but only on the challenger side. So the way we fix this is we have to undo John McCain's work. We have to undo Russ Feingold's work for Wisconsin and open it up so that anybody can compete on the finance side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is obviously so corrupted by money here and, special interests and all the rest. But then when we have very simple pieces of legislation like the Save America Act, for example, that would secure our elections and actually make it so that we have free and fair elections again, we can't even get that to the floor for a vote. Case in point, Senator Thune, who has yet to even bring it to the floor. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Can we fix this?
Absolutely essential. There's nothing more important than fixing our election system. We've got the illegals voting, which the SAVE Act tries to address. We have mail-in ballot fraud all over the country. We have no photo ID in many of these Democratic states. We have to implement that. And if we can't even get a vote in the Senate when we have a majority, we've got a problem. We've got to fix. We have to get the vote.
Do you think the fix is ending the zombie filibuster, as Mike Lee likes to call it, or is there more to it than that?
Look, if we can't get a vote on something as simple as that, then we have to end the filibuster. I know there are good reasons for having it and not having it, but if we can't get a vote on the most simple bill related to illegals voting, then we got a problem.
Serious problem. So looking back to Texas, if you win, which we're hoping you do, when, I like it, when you win, what are some of the top issues for you for staying on?
So you hit the first one, which is voter integrity. We have to deal with that first, because if all the other issues don't matter, if we're going to lose elections because of fraud, and mail-in ballot fraud is a huge issue in my state, it's a huge issue in every state, and the fact that many states don't have photo ID, ridiculous. We've got to fix that first. Then we've got issues related to our budget. Since John Cornyn's been in office, the federal deficit from George Washington to the time that John Cornyn started on his first day was $6.2 trillion. What is it now? $38 trillion and growing. He's done nothing to address it. All he's done is help exacerbate the problem by increasing the spending. That's been under John Cornyn's watch. There are other issues. China. I'm very interested in what's going on with China. I think they are a major adversary. We need to deal with that. We need to address that both economically and militarily. And look, judicial appointments are very big to me. I have spent the last 12 years defending Texas, fighting for this country. And that issue right there, John Cornyn has a major ability to affect who our judicial nominees are that President Trump has to approve. And the reality is he has not done a good job. Ted Cruz has done a great job. And I want to be a senator who picks constitutional conservative judges.
Yeah, that's so critical, and it seems as though many of the senators here now, rhinos as we like to call them, are really doing everything they can to hinder the president's agenda to stop every effort from making America truly great again. I mean, why is that? How are they benefiting? Help the American people to understand the root of this problem that is just seemingly endless.
So when you have bad judges, and I mean judges that don't follow the Constitution, they view it as their role to not interpret the law as it's written, whether it's the Constitution or a federal statute, they will say, I'm moving beyond that. I'm going to make up my own rules here. And they do. And they override federal law. They override the Constitution. That is an inappropriate action for a federal judge. And those judges have been picked by both Republicans and Democrats. And that's part of the problem with John Cornyn. He's picked those kind of judges.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone that the president has nominated for various positions, whether it be judicial or even, attorney general, all of them seem to have been severely held up by the Senate. Again, just seeming that they're working against him at every turn.
I don't know what the motivation is. All I know is there is a problem that needs to be fixed, and that's why I'm coming. John Cornyn's been part of the problem. You can see what happens over the last decades that he's been there. It's not getting better under him, and he's not out there offering up better solutions. Let's try something different. If it's not working, the idea is we can change that, and that's what we're going to do in Texas.
You got to try something new, and we are certainly rooting for you. Ken Paxton, thank you so much. And where can people go to support all your work?
KenPaxton.com is we need help financially because we are limited. And then at KenPaxtonTX is our Twitter handle and our Facebook.
Everyone check it out and go support the great work. Thank you so much, Ken Paxton.
And early voting is currently going on there in Texas. 3 days left of early voting. Make sure you go out and vote if you are in the Lone Star State. Continuing our coverage now with Kara Castronova, who is with General Flynn. General Flynn says we are behind the world on election security.
Hey everybody, Kara Castronova here with LINDELLTV with the great General Flynn talking about election integrity at the Election Integrity Summit here in Washington, D.C. and how we could secure elections before the midterms in 2026 and also before the next presidential election, which is a big one. How can we secure those elections, General Flynn?
Yeah, so first of all, the Gold Institute sponsored a summit today with, we had about 50 people in here. Some of the best experts in the country, in fact, the leading experts in the country on many of the components of our election system. Lawyers and technicians and just warriors for our election fairness in this country. The majority of people in the United States of America still don't believe that our elections are fair, which is a sad state for the United States of America. We also talked about comparisons of the United States system to systems around the world, and we really are behind the power curve. We're down in the third or fourth, world level of election capabilities, and the rest of the world requires voter ID. I mean, one of the things that's sort of the stark points that came out today, that the left, the left in our country will say, well, we're going to disenfranchise the black community, we're going to disenfranchise the Hispanic community, yet every single African nation requires an ID card to vote. Every single one of the nations in the southern hemisphere of our hemisphere requires an ID to vote. But we're being told in this country the Hispanic community is disenfranchised, the African American community is disenfranchised. So we learned that today. These are some of the things that come out that the American people aren't told because the media, refuses to tell them, right? I mean, the sort of the fake news media, right? So going forward, we're starting we have the primaries coming up. We have 3 critical primaries March 3rd, right? Arkansas, North Carolina, and Texas. And then we roll all the way to August. And we really still haven't fixed the election system. Right. We haven't, we still have mail-in ballots in different places. We still have the machines that are still out there that are we now know that the pieces of these machines are made in other countries. I mean, we can't have that. And so we had the leading experts on cybersecurity and the internals of these machines. We had them in here today to explain why we can't keep doing this, right? And never mind, voter ID and registering to vote and how the voter registration system has, we went through all of the issues of dead, people who are dead who have been voting, and we went through all that again as a reflection on what has been fixed and what more needs to be done. And one of the goals coming out of here today was, as a group of activists particularly for elections and election integrity, how we are going to move forward together to really help the president make some decisions, to help influence. We had people in here from the administration, so it was good to have them to help shape some of the decisions that the president's going to have to make. Right. He's going to have to make some decisions, and they're going to be tough decisions. Yeah. He knows it. and I believe he'll make the right decisions.
Any words of advice, if you had a couple words that you could say to the president, if he's watching, because he does, by the way, watch LINDELLTV from what I heard, what would you say? Like, how could we secure the next election? Let's say 2026, the midterms, besides the SAVE Act, because we want that to get passed, I know that, but what could he do specifically in his power to secure a safe election? Well,
I am aware of the SAVE Act, and I wish that Congress would just pass that, and and the president could move forward with that. I'm not optimistic about that, frankly. We'll see. I mean, if it happens, that's a good thing. But I really do believe that this, there's really two things. Well, three things. One is we got to have transparency on everything we do with our elections. Everything. We can't have this hiding behind things anymore. Got to have transparency. The second thing, we got to have legitimate voter ID. A picture. I mean, you need an ID to do anything, but not to vote. That's crazy. So there's got to be legitimate, valid IDs that to be used, right? And I do think that the voter registration, and so his message to the states, and to the governors is, clean up these voter registration rolls. Continue to clean them up. I know across the country that voter registration by the Republican side is much higher than the Democrat side. There's very good data that shows that in many places around the country. But we still got to clean up voter rolls. There's still people that are. I mean, we saw it today. It still exists today. We saw a chart today where in a couple of states you have people that are like born in the late 1800s still on the voting rolls. I mean, that's insane. So that kind of stuff hasn't been fixed yet. So that's the other thing that I would tell President Trump to at least emphasize. Tell these governors, clean this up. This is not for Republicans to win. This is to have fair elections in this country. If the Democrats, if the left doesn't, if they are worried about it, what are they worried about, right? I mean, fix the fairness of the elections, and let's get to a place where everybody trusts it. Once we are there, then you can argue policy, whether your policy is better than my policy when it comes to politics, right? That's a whole other debate. But right now, we just don't have fair elections.
We got to get to those fair elections in time for the midterms and in time, of course, for 2028 and like the elections that you mentioned already coming up in March. But thank you for shining a light on all of these things and keeping the conversation alive, because we can't let it die just because President Trump won. There are stolen elections in this world, including the United States of America. I don't understand why people find that so hard to believe. But thank you for your great work and the work of the Gold Institute. Thank you, General Flynn.
All right, we're going to continue following that. Again, President Trump hit it hard last night, speaking on the SAVE Act. He wants it signed. He wants it in law. He wants to secure our elections, as we all do. And we'll continue to press Congress there in Washington, D.C. to get that passed. Erica Kirk was in attendance at the State of the Union last night, a special guest to the president.
Those teams.
Meanwhile, Charlie's accused killer was in court facing a judge, which you just saw there. We'll take you there to the courtroom when we come back.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
Are you taking advantage of President Trump's golden age? Or what if I told you can just sit back and earn money as President Trump continues to repair our economy and make America energy independent again? I'm talking about oil royalty checks. With the help of the Oxford Club, thousands of Americans have unlocked this secret hack that has put money back in hard-working American pockets. Financial expert and LINDELLTV supporter Mark Linchenfield has showed me how. It's a way to profit from America's energy production that's been working quietly for decades, even when oil companies were struggling. So go to LINDELLOILBOOM.com to find out how this all works and why it's relevant right now. That's LINDELLOILBOOM.com.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
For the first time ever, we're bringing you MyPillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our MyPillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our MyPillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door, absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
The accused killer of Charlie Kirk was back in court yesterday. Tyler Robinson's attorneys filed a motion to disqualify the prosecution because the prosecutor's daughter was present at the event where the shooting occurred. But the judge found no significant risk of bias.
Utah County Attorney's Office. The court appreciates the patience of all parties with respect to this motion. The court has taken the necessary time to carefully review the motions submitted, consider the evidence presented, and the arguments made by counsel. And the court now reads its ruling, which will be made available and posted later today. Before the court is defendant's motion to disqualify Utah County Attorney's Office. Defendant argues that high-level prosecutor assigned to this case has a concurrent conflict of interest, and because no efforts were made to screen him, the entire office should be disqualified. Because defendant has not established a factual basis for a finding of conflict of interest or an objective appearance of impropriety rising to a constitutional concern, his motion is respectfully denied. At defendant's request, the court held an evidentiary hearing on January 16th.
So Robinson is charged with aggravated murder in the killing of Charlie Kirk. Prosecutors are pursuing the death penalty. And also last night, Erica Kirk, she was a special guest to the president. She was at the State of the Union. She stood up with tears in her eyes, and the crowd there started chanting Charlie's name. It was beautiful to see, beautiful to hear them chant Charlie's name. The president saying that there's a lot of love for God now back in the country because of Charlie Kirk. All right, taking a quick look at the stock market now. Let's see how everything is looking at the opening board. On Wall Street, opening bell just moments ago. The Dow, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all in the green this morning. Great bounce back again today. You know, stocks plummeted a little bit on Monday after President Trump announced over the weekend that he was imposing a 10% tariff on all countries after the Supreme Court ruling. So the stock market was volatile on Monday, but it's bounced back yesterday, also today. So good to see the numbers there. Looking at your news to go this morning real quick, just to let you know, President Trump is scheduled to visit Texas on Friday. He will give remarks at the port of Corpus Christi. Those remarks will begin at 3 p.m. Central Time, so make sure you're watching that. Again, President Trump visiting Corpus Christi on Friday. And for all news headlines, you can visit LINDELLTV.com. You can also download the Lindell TV app. It's free in your app store. And we leave you today in prayer from the book of Romans. The Bible says this, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. And a reminder, if you're on social media, you can give me a follow, send me a message. I would love to connect with you. I am on X, Vocal, Truth Social, Instagram, and YouTube. You can go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are there live every single day. Also, don't forget to join vocal.com. That's Mike Lindell's social media platform. I'm there as well. So make sure you go follow my handles. I would love to connect with you on social media. And that'll do it for us here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good day, America.
Let's face it, you can't trust Big Pharma. They've already tried to block ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and raise prices on everything from antibiotics to your daily meds. Well, there's good news. All Family Pharmacy is standing up for medical freedom and helping people get the treatments they actually want. My family and I use them all the time. They made it easy and affordable without the runaround. While other pharmacies are jacking up prices, they've actually dropped theirs. Ivermectin now starts at just $2 a capsule. Use my promo code LINDELLTV, you get an extra 10% off of that. You need ivermectin, antibiotics, or methylene blue, you name it, they've got it. They make it simple. You fill out a short online form, a licensed doctor reviews it, and your meds ship fast right to your front door. If you want to be prepared and have your medications on hand, this is your new pharmacy. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Promo code LINDELL10 saves you even more. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Promo code LINDELL10. For the first time ever, we're bringing you My Pillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our My Pillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our My Pillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door, absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the